Keycloak over code. Welcome to this episode. Translating Keycloak is a collaborative effort. Welcome everybody. And today my partner in crime is Robin. Welcome, Robin. Good morning. Thanks for getting up so early for me for this Asia Pacific episode. Thanks a lot. So yeah, we had an episode yesterday, which was about the Americas and EMEA, and today it's about Asia Pacific. I'm really excited to give it a try to figure out who's watching us in which time zone. So I don't know. Please give us a short comment in the chat where you're joining from. Yeah. So yeah, it seems we had a little bit more than yesterday, people, which is a good thing. So please place all the questions in the chat. And you mentioned to me earlier this morning that you already tried out Keycloak 26.2 a bit.
Yes, correct.
So what do you think about this release?
Just from the extension standpoint, it's stable. So I didn't have to change anything. No HTML tags, no IDs, nothing. Just updated. Tests went through. So nothing special.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, again, it's a minor release. It's supposed to be compatible with the previous setting. You should be able to install it just over a previous release. No options changed, and everything that is considered a breaking change is then opt-in. So that's at least our goal that we had.
Yeah, we have to check for the token exchange.
Yeah.
That is still compatible, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good point. So token exchange was a preview feature, and for that we took the opportunity to change it. But everything that is fully supported, that will not change in a minor release. Yeah. Good, but let's see. There are some small glitches we already identified, and I believe in a week or so there will be the next patch release update. But that's also the good news. Whenever you find something today that is not working as you expect it to work, let us know, give it a try now, and then probably have a fix in your hands by next week. All right, good. Let's get started. So I brought some slides that will take us maybe like 15-ish minutes, and I will show how we translate, how Weblate works, give a little bit of why we did it in the first place. Let's dive into that and then have a discussion, also answering all the questions that come through the chat. So let's see if I can share my screen. Robin and me will stay on screen like this. So yeah, let's give it a start. So as I said, Keycloak is a collaborative effort. So I'm Alexander Schwartz. I'm a software engineer at Red Hat, working full-time on upstream Keycloak. And Robin, you're working also on Keycloak more or less full-time, right? At your company?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Yeah, which is great. Working extensions and also giving the Keycloak team feedback how things are working in production, actually, which is always welcome. Cool. Yeah, and well, what is the goal of making actually Keycloak translations present? So it's about, well, translations we want to make them shine for users, so they should be complete, they should be up to date, and Keycloak is used in lots of other countries, so having things translated makes it really a choice there to support all the different languages. I'm a German native speaker, but and so I know that people really love to not only have things in English. With this effort that we're now putting into Weblate, we also want to make life simpler for translators, because those translators will need to do the work of translation. Ideally, we also have less day-to-day work for maintainers. So maintainers in the past needed to do a lot of handwork and reviewing of the pull requests, and then asking, maybe find a native speaker to review this pull request. All these steps were necessary. Maybe with the new process, we have a little bit of less work for maintainers. And with Weblate, we also see, I think, have a good status on translation. So we see, are they complete? Have they been updated recently? Are there maybe any checks that are failing. So we really want to know the status of the translations. When you go to Weblate, it looks, well, similar like this. We will see a live demo in a minute. So you see that there are different components here. Some things you also recognize from when you're working with Keycloak. There's the account UI where people can update their details, their credentials. There's the admin UI where people, the administrators can add users, change groups and whatnot. And the good and recent in 26.2, we finally supported fine-grained admin permissions where you can now delegate these admin permissions to individuals and groups of users. Then there are the base themes. Those are more or less like the backend messages that Keycloak presents. I'd say mostly error messages and validation messages. So those are also translated, but the account UI and admin UI are front-end messages. Plus there's a glossary, like with the terms that we want to have consistently translated in all the languages. For example, what is a client, what is a realm? And maybe one bit stands out here is the base theme for emails. It's also a backend thing, but this is then containing lots of HTML and long texts that are placed into emails, which of course can also be translated. It is a bit of small print, but this is currently all the languages that are present in Weblate. So it's German, Catalan, Dutch, French, Georgian, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese in the Brazil flavor, Romanian, Slovenian, and Spanish. All these languages are in Weblate, so you can use the web frontend that I will show you in a minute to contribute translations. And there are other languages in the Keycloak repository that are not yet in Weblate. Not yet in Weblate because there haven't been 2 volunteers maintaining them on Weblate. So basically we accept pull requests at any time for any language, but those languages who have some language maintainer stepping up, those will get the chance to be able to be added to Weblate. Once they step up, these 2 volunteers. The primary reason to choosing Weblate was that translators don't need to know how to use GitHub and how to do pull requests, because that's, I would say, a technical difficulty, something that we could get away with. So we could remove from the process, and this is what we did with Weblate. We will also see that you get notifications for new and changed source strings in Weblate when you're a translator. And we also see lots of nice statistics like on missing strings, on how complete the translation is. The translation process is then that the community can register in Weblate. You need to accept some contribution guidelines, basically saying that all the translations you do then go to the Keycloak project, and that you submit them by the Apache 2.0 license. And then you can start translating in Weblate. There's no restriction. Any language that is there, you translate. Ideally, you're a native speaker, or at least close to the knowledge of a native speaker when you do translations. And once the translations are in, the Keycloak maintainer will check the CI status, check the translations via Google Translate, and then merge that in Keycloak main. Some days or weeks after, the language maintainer will review those translations and mark them approved. So the processes, they go from untranslated to translated, done by the community, and the language maintainers then change it from translated to approved. We will see that in a second, I believe. Right. That's the translation process. And around that, we did over the last weeks and months some more supporting actions. We added some automatic check to avoid common formatting mistakes. We gradually improved documentation and added also reminders to language maintainers when a release is closed. Like every 3 months, there's a new feature release of Keycloak, and by that time, we ask the language maintainers to review all the translations that came in from the community and give a final review on all the suggestions that came in. We also simplified right-to-left language email templates. That was one thing, and like small bits and pieces all over the translation process to make it hopefully hopefully simpler. Yeah, I think one thing we actually did some additional checks that all the HTML text that are in the source string will also be present in the target string, so no formatting should get lost when translating things here. Yeah, and by that, let's really jump into an example here. Let's jump to Weblate. So what I already did, let's jump to Weblate. Yeah, probably go to Weblate. I go to weblate.org. So this is already presented in German because my browser tells him to show it in German. But once I log into Weblate, it will show it in English because I switched it to English as a preparation for today's talk. And here I see on the start page first all the components that I watch, because I told them to watch all the German ones. But if I go to the main page of Keycloak, I see the component as I showed them in the previous slide. I can also have a look at the languages, and you see that some of the languages are in dark green. These are translated and approved. And if you go down here, Javier from the Spanish team is doing a great job in keeping all the Spanish parts translated. If I then go to German, you see that the account UI and the base account UI, whatever is there except the admin UI, is all translated. They have big green check marks here. And yeah, if I go to something that is not yet translated, to the admin UI, for example, yeah, I get a form-based view like this, and yeah, I can go through the different translations that haven't been translated yet. Let's try to pick it. In the admin UI, those texts are sometimes very long and difficult to translate. Yeah, that's Robin. Is that a good translation? Value you want to hard code?
Yeah.
Maybe like this. Voreingestellte Wert, der verwendet werden soll.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And you can also show the automatic suggestion on the console.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Wert möchtest du hardcoded? Naja, that's a bit of a that's not so nice as a German translation. Wert, den Sie Yeah, let's go with that one up here, right?
Yeah.
And when I now say save and continue, this will be a translation that will be waiting for review. And as I said, we're now there need to be at least 2 language maintainers, and Robin being the second language maintainer, if Robin would go there and would go to all the translations that have been translated but not approved, he would see that on his list for updates. Yeah, so for example, user is a common term that we put here and in a glossary, and user is going to be Benutzer in German. So if I save and stay here, it will tell me, okay, I'm missing a full stop here. So I'm putting in the full stop. So we have a lot of checks already in here, which is really nice to see. Probably we should have another glossary entry for label. I'm not sure how we would translate label in the future. What we didn't do yet, we didn't add any screenshots here, which might give more context to users. Yeah, let's see how we handle this in the future. I can go back to
progress on the screenshots.
Yeah, we. So
I know there was a discussion, and I was thinking about how to do it, because normally you would have to go through every possible notification on the top. So deleting, creating, saving, and so on. And that's impossible, I would say.
Yeah, it's quite impossible to do it 100%. Also, we have like these help texts that pop up when you hover over a specific item, and how would you do a screenshot of that? That's really difficult. I agree on that. Maybe we can do it 80%.
Yeah.
So, well, sometimes you need, well, one way to get the context is to have a screenshot and see where the string is being used. And apparently Weblate has a feature of that you can upload the screenshot and then it do a text recognition and then tries to place the screenshots to the right strings. I really like to give it a try, but I'm lacking the time. Jon wasn't so excited about it. Because we probably see that it's not 100% results that we will get here. Still, it might be a help, and as long as we can automate it, maybe somebody wants to give it a try.
Yeah.
The alternative would be that we maybe change some of the labels, so unfinished strings. So for example, you see here the key, which is not very descriptive. Maybe we can put there longer keys. Maybe we could place some annotations or some inline text in here. Jon mentioned that there's the PO format, which allows such comments to be added, but I'm not sure how that would be supported for Java message properties and how Weblate would support it. So I'm a bit... Yeah, well, if nobody tries, we will not get any progress, I'd say. So I'm really, well, if somebody wants to try and give it a try, maybe even with some manual screenshots and figure out how good the text recognition works, for example. Maybe somebody can do an automated UI test that records these screenshots automatically and uploads them every night. So I'd say there are lots of different things to try out, and then, well, we learn as we go. Maybe some of the things will not be implemented finally, but yeah, try out things, experiment. All right, so going back to here, so I see here maybe some suggestions already in, which language are we in? This is all the languages, probably.
Yeah.
So let's see what suggestions we have. So I go in here, and somebody did probably a suggestion for the Brazilian translation. And somebody, yeah, did a suggestion here. Raphael did a suggestion, and the language maintainers will then review it and maybe even approve it then. So this is the workflow that also is possible with Weblate, and it should help us here. So like, this is the suggestion applicativo autenticador, or I can't speak Portuguese, you probably noticed that. And this is also the old text until the language maintainer approves this one. Let's see, so these are all Portuguese translations suggested, apparently. 11 of strings, 29 words. In the admin UI, it's, let's see, oh, there are 2 German suggestions here. So I see here there's a short English text and a very long German text. So it's probably covering the same text, but Johannes Bergmann then said here, this is temporär gesperrt, would be a better translation to temporarily locked. And I would say, yes, I accept and approve this one, because I'm a native German speaker and the language maintainer, I can approve this here. And now this translation has been accepted. What Weblate then does, it would eventually create an updated pull request. There is already one pull request here that has been created last night with lots of translations. it failed, and we will see in a minute why it failed. What we see here, there is one commit per language. So here several people contributed. It's Lucas and Raphael who contributed here. So to the Japanese translation there were 4 people contributing, and to the French translation there are 2 people contributing in this pull request. And we saw that there is now a build failure, and the build failure is there for a reason. I looked it up before. At the moment, there are both backend messages and frontend messages, and the backend messages need to have, whenever there's a single quote, you need to duplicate them, because otherwise it's an escaping mechanism in Java message properties. And our automated check has now found a place where this hasn't been, there's only a single quote here in the attribute, but all the others have 2, so basically we need to fix this one first before the translation, before this can be merged to the Keycloak main repository. Otherwise it would just break. So let's go to the French translation. And here it is. Here's only 1 quote, and I put it at 2 quotes here. And I do then save and stay. I go to the Keycloak project, I go to repository maintenance, I commit those changes that I just did and others did as well, and those outgoing 4 commits will then be updated, and then the build will hopefully proceed, because this error with the single quote is no longer there. So similar to the check that I just showed you, there are other checks that check that the HTML is correct, that the placeholders are correct. If you want to learn more about the translation process and the rules about the quotes, they are documented in this translation MD file. I can also put it here in the chat. For example, in all the base themes, there need to be no single quotes or double quotes, but in the front end, there must be only single quotes and no double quotes. I hope we will eventually align that in a better way. But for now, it's the way it is. The simpler way is actually to use typographic quotes like this, ones that go either to the left or to right, depending on the language of your choice. But then, if you use these typographic quotes, you don't need to care about when to use 1 or 2 of these single quotes. The Spanish translation team added some hints here. What else is in the docs? There's a little bit more description on the task and how to add a language. And this gives now an overview of what components and what language are fully translated, which tells you where, I think the accounts, the login theme is probably well translated in a lot of languages already. Dutch is ongoing, Romanian is ongoing, similar for email, and but then the admin theme, the admin UI is probably the one that is less translated, and the account UI is currently missing in the Slovenian language. So that's where we are with our translations in Weblate, at least. So yeah, so that's it for the slides and the demo, I'd say. As I said, it's a collaborative effort. We want to make translation shine for users, and I think the checks that we see in Weblate, they will help us. And also the automated checks that we have to make this simpler, both for translators and for maintainers. So we need to do less things, less repetitive tasks that can be done by a machine with the automated checks. And we also know the status of the translations, like you've seen in the previous example. You can really see as a user, okay, I want to use this translation. Is the admin UI translated or not? Is the account UI translated or not? Maybe I can then decide to contribute to that translation if I then use it. Right. All right, and that's me. If you want to reach out to me by email on my Red Hat email address or on social media, Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, what did I forget, Robin?
Maybe to mention that the translations are not static. They can
Okay.
live and be changed. As you can see, I've seen the suggestions, and maybe you remember the one issue on GitHub from some other German with the bad translations. Yeah, and they are not fixed. So if some translation is not good, we are happy to change it.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, sometimes I think we had a discussion on how to translate user in German, for example. So there was a discussion with 2 or 3 people where we well figured out what would be the right translation, which is very helpful to have other people's opinion there. In French, we got the quotes wrong, and it was spotted very, very recently. I think it was in October last year. But Weblate also tells us when there are changes, like when the source string changes, like the English original changes, and then the translators will get a highlight, like this has changed, maybe review it. I'm trying to find an example here, but I'm not sure where to find one.
I think I sent it to you via email, the last one, where I wanted to edit it inline, the English one. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing is, we don't yet allow we don't allow yet editing of English texts. That's right. You can only edit the translations. In order to edit the English text, I probably need to talk to the ones owning those English files. So that's the UI team at Keycloak. I need to talk to them. That we have then this fast process via Weblate in getting them approved. Once they're on board and approve that process, you will then probably also be able to do translations there. There's also one question that came up here. So for example, somebody's asking, okay, there's probably a spelling mistake, a from, but it's like, is it a form or a flow? Somebody misspelled something here. I need to follow up on that. That's also, you can ask a question or a comment here and people will follow up on that eventually. Yeah. Giovanni Sarola, you're asking, I see only 12 languages. Yeah, so these are the languages that are in Weblate. Let's see if I can find this one. So so this list will soon get all the other languages in Weblate, so that's maybe just a matter of time.
Yeah, today. For Portuguese and French, at least, yeah.
So I think the blog post we had gave it some more traction, which was great to see. So if you would go to the repository of Keycloak, you will see that there are more translations. So we have a Norwegian translation, a Polish translation, a Russian one, a Ukrainian one, simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese. So there are lots of more translations. For example, if you go to this folder, you're asking if it's possible to add those translations also to Weblate. Yes, it's possible. But again, we would need 2 people who volunteer for each of those languages. Because once we have 2 people looking at it, we can then, like in Weblate, you will see that people can do suggestions as a community. And some people need to review those. If it's only a single person, that single person might be on holiday or might be away or might be on a project, not having the time to do all this work. So I'd say at least we need to have 2 people for each language. And then we can start accepting translations from everybody using Weblate. if you want to contribute to the other languages that are not yet in Weblate, you can still do pull requests. I think that's part of the documentation. And then you do like a one-off translation, I'd say, or you reviewed it for a project, you found some missing strings, you add them, you create a pull request, and then you find a second native speaker who reviews them, and then they're in there. So there are a lot of more translations already, but they don't have these kind of language maintainers on duty, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure what languages are you're looking for. Maybe you can add that to the chat. Right. And I think for the French translation, we had a situation where we had 2 language maintainers and they weren't so active and didn't then anymore had the time. So for some time, we fell back to the original process of pull requests. So there was a time where everything was in GitHub with pull requests. Then we moved to Weblate for some of the languages, including French. Then the French maintainers left. And then translations for French were back to the pull request process. Turkish process.
Turkish. I don't think we have
what's the language code of Turkish? TR? Apparently no admin messages, but maybe there are other messages. Let's see. Oh, there are messages, for example, for the email templates. There seem to be even more for the email. The admin UI is newer, so there might not be translation for some of them. So yes, we do have a Turkish translation.
There was it at the bottom.
Oh yeah, alphabetically sorted. Yeah, now I get it. So yes, there's a Turkish translation. Again, once there are 2 people setting up, we can add it to Weblate. So you can reach out to me by email, or even better, if you go to this translation process I shared earlier. Unfortunately, I closed this window. So we see, here's the process of steps to add a new language to Weblate. 2 volunteers, and what you start with, you add a comment to this GitHub discussion that is linked here. And and then either you bring a second person, maybe a colleague, maybe a friend, and you say the 2 of you will do this, or you post a note here in the discussion saying, I'm volunteering, I'm looking for a second person. And that worked for some of the languages already very well, that the second person then comments there. And as soon as we have 2 people, we will set it up. Right. Good question. So, any more questions from you, Robin, or should we wrap it up?
I don't see any more question, and I don't think I have one more. No, I think that's it.
Okay, that's it. So then we wrap it up. Let's close the screen here. Thanks for this 7 o'clock. Yeah, we had a little bit more than yesterday. Still, I'm kind of thinking maybe we didn't reach too many people who are translating things, but we will keep things going, I believe. Let's see if we get one more translation here from today's call in Weblate.
Hopefully.
Good. Thanks a lot, and see you next time on Keycloak Over Code. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.